by the speaker, or you'll be always welcome to talk to the speaker. And now I invite Igor Anokhin, head of the K2 Cloud, ChatGPT as a partner. Hi everyone, and today I'm going to speak about using ChatGPT from the developer side, and I'll try to explain why for me ChatGPT has become a partner, and maybe I'll persuade some of you to start using it. A few words about myself. I am currently head of a team, of the past team in K2 Cloud, and I started using ChatGPT in January 2023, a month after it was released. First, it helped me doing my university chores, and after that, I started using it in the workplace. And turns out quite good. So what are we going to talk about? Firstly, what attitude do you see towards ChatGPT in the community and in the cloud? Then we'll talk about the basic ChatGPT settings, what usage rules exist. Then about things that the developer can do with ChatGPT, smart task, utility task, and then I'll tell you about Copilot and why it is Copilot that replaces ChatGPT for me and allows me sometimes spend weeks without going to ChatGPT. And then I'll speak about tools. So what's happening in that tool? K2 Cloud is the former CROC cloud. We develop a cloud providing the infrastructure as a service, IaaS. We also have PaaS, CaaS, and we're also part of a large company, corporate tech. It's important that we're growing, and in this connection, the situation arose that have a dual nature. On the one hand, we have juniors, and one in every two juniors uses all sorts of tools, including ChatGPT. They're being pushed towards this by different articles on LinkedIn, Harbor, and other sites that AI should be used by every developer. I think it's overhyped. And actually, it shouldn't only be happening in programming, but in other professions. Many junior specialists are now being taught to use AI in their work processes. But on the other hand, we have senior developers who are now quite skeptical about ChatGPT now and only use it for memes. They use different networks. So a typical request from a senior developer in our team looks like this. When I tried to understand why it happened so, the answer was quite simple. They don't understand why it should be used. What are the use cases? Somebody even compared ChatGPT with Wikipedia, albeit less friendly, because Wikipedia has hyperlinks to skip from one subject to another, and ChatGPT doesn't. Today, we're trying to sit on both chairs, trying to explain how ChatGPT can be used. Because let's start with the rules. Because ChatGPT is a partner, we need to have a set of rules, just like with any partner. And the basic rule that I would like to share, that you need to memorize, is information. Provide as much information to ChatGPT as possible within a single message. It can be compared to your communication with remote colleagues when you're trying to get all of them after one message, so they should understand you from one message. If your request can be formalized, it would look like this. First, you set the role for ChatGPT, who you are, or who they are in the situation, a developer, a critic, or an analyst. Then you pass the context, a story, the area that you're working in, so that ChatGPT should understand what's happening. And then you indicate the goal. Actually, formulating the question that you would like ChatGPT to answer. And at the end, you set the format of the output. Let's see how it looks. There's a role of business development sales manager. It's available in many countries. Headhunter.ru has it. If we don't know what it is and try to send a request to ChatGPT, the answer will be like that. Of course, ChatGPT is right. On the whole, I've truncated this answer, but even without it, we understand that BDSM, in our case, is not about all sorts of sexual practices. At the same time, a request that has been entered in the proper way could look like this. We describe what ChatGPT is, what kind of situation we are in, and this time the answer to our question meets our requirements. This is the basic rule that you need to memorize and use. Knowing it, you'll make sure that the quality of ChatGPT answers is much better. Then there are other rules. Firstly, the language. It's better to use English with ChatGPT. That depends. That's because in English, you can give ChatGPT more information and receive more information in an answer. The next rule, fact-checking. Even now, using ChatGPT 4.0, you can easily get an answer that a horse has 4 legs, but with more difficult questions, you need to verify in other ways. I suggest two methods. Open a new chat and use some answers from the previous one to make ChatGPT arrive at another answer like this. And second, you get an answer, go to the documentation, verify whether what they said is true. Another important point is information security. Because this conference is about this, and we need to remember. So everything we have shared with ChatGPT and OpenAI in particular has become training data for the model. You need to remember about anonymity and try anonymizing all the requests and questions. Also, you shouldn't send the whole code there for 2 reasons. On the one hand, you're not going to get a full answer because the context window is limited and won't memorize all of your code base. But on the other hand, you'll just send your whole project to OpenAI. If you still use ChatGPT and our information security department allows that, you can use temporary chats. They are not stored in history. They're not going to be used for training, as OpenAI promises, and also they'll meet all the custom instructions that you have. And in fact, these are all the ground rules that I wanted to say. If it's easy to remember about English and other rules, it's much more difficult with the base rules, because every time you have to write some prompt, you have to think about what role to assign to AI, a lot of context, and you want to have an easier way. And there's an answer to that. ChatGPT can be trained to match your needs as a real partner. And in the profile page, you can set standard profile that will apply to all your queries and chats that you initiate. But in certain cases, one profile is not enough. And let me see what I do, because I have 3 roles. At certain times, I'm a manager, other times, I'm a developer, other times somebody else. So I tried to bring 3 roles in this profile. So I asked ChatGPT to remember the roles and remember the level of detail. And the level of detail is set from 1 to 5, on a scale from 1 to 5. So the roles are engineering virtuoso, business virtuoso, and highly intelligent generalist, with a wide variety of knowledge. After one has set this prompt, chats ChatGPT's responses look at this. Firstly, they indicate a role and detail. In this case, they use a level of detail equal to 1. This format helps you understand if ChatGPT understands you, how correctly you're asking the questions, and how correctly they are selecting the role to answer a question. Another part of my profile that can be discussed, it can be found. It's a request to be as accurate as possible to mention facts, and also indicating that we're familiar with all the ethical notes. So the QR code on the right will bring you to my profile in full. It's quite long. Also, let me share a few other points that work well and that can be used. Firstly, we ask it to follow the answering rules without any exceptions, and then hints that you're going to give them a tip of $100,000 for a perfect solution. Also requests to make sure that your answer is very important to your career. And the one that we've encountered recently, always repeat the question before answering it. For some reason, it really works better. So you can use it. I have something like that in the development environment for the code assistant. So while we're not too far away from the homepage, let me say a few words about custom GPT. They're not worth it. There are a couple of interesting libraries that can be used once or twice, but largely speaking, I didn't find value in any of what's there for the long term. Conversely, let me speak about the browser extensions that can be used. The first one allows you to look through the history of your chats and search through them. It's very good because the GPT site doesn't have it, and it's useful. And the next extension is about export of chats to PDF. And again, it's only useful because it's not available on the basic ChatGPT side, because it can be broken if you have some pictures or files, and I still have to use this. So we're done with ChatGPT settings. Let's go to the problems. Let's sort it out with smart problems that you want to do. The first thing I'd like to say is the search and explanations. For instance, you have systemctl config that we ask ChatGPT to explain to us. There could be anything here, but it's important to make it a case that junior developers quite often use in our team if they understand how to use ChatGPT, because reading the chat's responses is much more convenient than the raw listing. Also, the chat is much more friendly. Also, you don't spend the time with your colleagues, and that saves time both for yourself because you immediately understand what you need, and them because the time of senior developers is expensive. Regarding the senior developers, let me show you a case that I had recently. I was working on a Python Golang project and had to write in the real code, in the ready-made code. The first question was DM, what DM was about. If you know that there are aliases in Golang, the answer will be quite simple. It's just an alias. But I didn't know Golang, and for me, it could mean anything, including some special import type. Writing a request like this to Google is quite difficult because Google won't understand what DM is all about, a device manager, something new, and ChatGPT manages this perfectly. It's important that you don't need to formulate it in a different way. You show it an example, and it gives you an answer, and then you can go to Google and read how the Golang alias works. In addition, or apart from a simple task, ChatGPT can deal with architectures. For instance, here we compare Cassandra and MongoDB. It's prepared to give us an answer in a beautiful taper, even though other technologies could be there. I know that our architecture engineers do some things exactly this thing. They ask a question to ChatGPT and then add to it. The value of it is that you don't start from scratch, but you start adding and improving something to start with. The problem is that GPT's knowledge is limited, and so you have to keep being critical about what you get from it. Going deeper into architecture, let's imagine that you've decided to design Twitter or something with pictures for an hour. If in the past this section had to take a lot of time and reading a lot of literature, now it's all done easily in ChatGPT. The section is described quite well, and right in this prompt, which is written in Russia, we can ask ChatGPT both to ask questions for clarification, exactly what they want to hear from us in the design section, and then based on this information to provide answers. And right here, we're setting that our responses to chat will be brief. Because we are in an interview mode at this time, and ChatGPT copes with not only architectural problems but also any other similar. If you've run interviews, you may have noticed that interviewees can cheat and be looking for answers to your questions in the internet. In my opinion, it's more of a problem of the interview. So if you are asking those questions that are easy to find an answer to through search or ChatGPT, then you deserve it. At the same time, myself, as a person from the company, can also use ChatGPT to generate some questions. One should note that ChatGPT, in this respect, helps hooking to some such subjects that are worth discussing. For instance, I sometimes have to interview C developers. I have some C background, and in general, I understand some subjects, but I haven't written anything in it for quite a long time. And it's the case when I ask ChatGPT to generate a certain question. Of course, 60 to 70% get to the dustbin because they're micro questions. Answers to them can be easily found in Google. But the rest can be taken, modified, and used in an interview. So they can be used as a starting point. The same thing works for questions with code. Most of them have no value, but some of them are good enough to be used in an interview. After modification, making them friendlier so that they could be shown to a real person after that. What works, what doesn't work with ChatGPT very well? It's about working with some old code, a request to run architecture and look for vulnerability in the old code. Here, ChatGPT is writing something about the K2 cloud architecture, but in fact, these are all very general words that have very little bearing to how our architecture, to what our architecture looks like. What should you remember from our experience with smart tasks? ChatGPT is a great fit for those cases where there's no use Googling. We have some specific requests and it's difficult to Google. But the expected answer is simple. ChatGPT will cope with that quite well. Also, ChatGPT will help us any enrollment questions. When I was talking about with the communication people in this conference, they said that if ChatGPT is going to solve the entry exams, then they will filter out candidates at the interview level. Also, ChatGPT copes with the solution of complex tasks that need to be decomposed into smaller ones, work on the context. And its answers require critical thinking because all of us who still have critical thinking can feel quite safe. From smart tasks, you can get to utility ones, everything to do with code. And I think the first case that works just great will be about working with the database. For instance, writing an SQL request, optimization of SQL requests, and writing of not only simple things which have only one select, but some things that similar to those that just like we have a question that uses several tables using different joins and select. So we write the question, pass the database schema, and the list of tables that we use, and get an answer that looks like this. It's structured quite well. It's split into aliases and sections. So ChatGPT starts with using for Moscow users and creates an alias for that. That it's looking for completed transaction. Then using the previous alias, it's looking for Moscow-based transaction. Then it looks for sales by seller. And the final request based on all these aliases looked like this. It can be read quite well. It's quite easy to read and contains one select from order by and limit. Had I written this request by hand, then it would have taken me less than 30 minutes, and perhaps it would be done in one select with sub questions, and it would be unreadable. ChatGPT gave a much better result. Also, it's important to mention code annotation. If we can cope with some simple annotation ourselves or using such tools as Copilot, then for a sophisticated annotation, you can use ChatGPT. Here I have a parameterized decorator that accepts a version, then the one decorator that accepts the function, and there's another decorator inside that can recall the function which is called caller here by the connection that's in there. So we make a call, pass it to caller, and the final function will make the connection based on this. So after this request to ChatGPT, we get code that looks like this. As one colleague told me, this is code written by machine for machines because it includes strict typization of MyPy. Everything is annotated, but it works. And most importantly, it doesn't only pass MyPy in strict mode, but it retains all the prompts that the development environment offers us. And the type of annotation, in my opinion, is there for the development environment to give us correct prompts so that it make code writing easier. So what can you note? ChatGPT recognizes that the first argument is changing. It sees that it is changed to the concatenate any in caller. It also uses rough specs. That allows saving those prompts and types that were present in the initial file. Also, importantly, it uses final for those elements that are not changing. Unfortunately, you don't get this result from the first attempt. As you see from the prompt on the left, I asked it to use as strict typization as possible. Also, I said I wanted to use stack and Pyro. So the case is good for ChatGPT, but you also have to understand what types are most likely to be present there. Stepping a bit aside from annotation, one can talk about the generation of different clients. And again, it's the case where ChatGPT works quite well, especially when your client is not dependent a lot on some other code, and you can easily pass either the interface that your client has or the entire client implementation. It works for both for the generation of HTTP client to HTTP servers and also for the generation of different SLIs to these clients. And it works like this. So we pass the code, we ask something to be written on click and get a ready-made file. So what's important here? This request took me 30 seconds, just like all the rest. But I can change, I can replace our pass, I click by our pass by, changing one word. And it works quite well for different admin utilities. Apart from the client generation, ChatGPT is prepared to write tests for you. That would be some basic unit tests. This is a basic unit test request, but you can see you can adjust it Just like with SLA clients, you want to write in PyTest, or you can ask it to be written for unit test or for whatever you're using yourself. Going a little backwards, go a little bit aside from programming again, we have regular expressions. Remembering regular expressions and writing them from scratch is quite a difficult thing to do because they have a special syntax. They need to remember it. At the same time, we can load string into ChatGPT and examples of output values, after which it'll generate code that you see on the screen. And the interesting thing here is that it's prepared to generate this code with comments included. Those guys who are saying that ChatGPT generates something for you and then you'll spend a lot of time trying to get the handle on it, it's not exactly true because for many things that it generates, it's trying to write comments for. Then, if you still don't like this regular expression, you rewrite it yourself. But ChatGPT gave you a basic version that you can use later. You can also go to more general things and talk about config. ChatGPT does an excellent job configuring Docker configs, CTL configs, a whole range of things related to Linux and not only Linux. But what's extremely important is that all the configs that it generates should be tested, should be verified. For instance, senior engineers who get exposed to new technology, they use ChatGPT to generate a config and then go to the documentation and verify what the ChatGPT offered them against the documentation. This approach takes a lot less time compared to doing it on yourself. Because if you try to assemble the config on your own based on documentation, you'll spend a lot of time. Whereas ChatGPT gives you a list of basic topics and things that you need to know about configs. So what doesn't work with ChatGPT? Just like with architecture, it doesn't do a good job with libraries that are absolutely new or that have changed. A good example is SQL Alchemy v2. The new version. ChatGPT will, if you ask about ChatGPT version 2, it'll write about it, but actually it'll be working with ChatGPT version 1. Also, code refactoring doesn't work very well. For algorithm code, ChatGPT works quite well, but if we have some architecture and it has to be modified or interfaces need to be replaced. ChatGPT just won't remember what you have. At the same time, if you go to Google and try to learn how well the ChatGPT works with refactoring, the answer will be that it does a great job. But the examples will be like this: it's a code of 20, 30 lines. There are some problems with security, but for the internet, it's an example of real-life refactoring that you need to download to ChatGPT. What you need to remember, ChatGPT does a great job working with databases, and it's there to help you with them. Also, it's quite good at generating client code. It explains configs and other text formats. This is the thing that beginning developers should be using ChatGPT. At the same time, config generation and other sophisticated things are better to be done when you have an understanding of what's happening. So it's more for senior developers and for the beginners to understand. Also, what I'd like to note is you get to use the algorithm code. Now about Copilot. ChatGPT for me is about thinking, is about sorting out sophisticated code and things of 2 or 3 different versions. Copilot, on the contrary, is about a quick answer when you need an answer here and now. It allows you getting an answer without getting out of the development environment. So as opposed to ChatGPT that saves a lot of time. Copilot adds simple code, saving 15 to 20 minutes for every effort you're making. So basically, it adds value for the long term. And the way it works is just like what you would expect of a modern IDE. So it'll prepared to continue the doc strings with your methods. And what's important, if you have some special style of writing doc strings, the Copilot is prepared to adjust to your formats. It's also prepared to write simple code. If Copilot understands your code well enough, the additions can look like this. It will be able to both include the function name and the arguments and basically write the whole method that you have. It's able to write not only the code, but even the test for it. So it'll be able to write basic tests that are not parameterized very well. They'll have to be written. But if you want to start some parameterize on PyTest, Copilot will try to write them for you. Here's an example of an article on Haber that compared different code assistants. And it says that ChatGPT doesn't only work with the name of the function, which in this case has no meaning, but it's also looking at what's inside. So there are two exceptions, and Copilot generated code is trying to verify them and test them, even though they are not guessed by value error. They think it's a syntax error. Going away from Python development, it's important to say that Copilot is prepared to finish for you whatever you have. So you went to write some Bash script, so it's prepared to finish up your Bash script. You started doing configs, it'll help with that. So on the whole, it's a model to generate text. And it doesn't make, it's not different for it what to generate. It generates in different environments. Apart from Python, I tested it on Golang, on Dart, and so on. However, Copilot steals code, just like ChatGPT, and you also have to pay for it. And it's also only available under VPN. And we also have something similar here that one could try to use. And here I'll offer several options that you could use in your project. So the next thing to ChatGPT, next similar thing is Gemini. It's a large language model that goes to the internet more often than ChatGPT. Here we could have Claude version 3. It does better job doing content matching than ChatGPT, but so working with specific code, ChatGPT and Gemini will be better. If you need something easier that has ChatGPT, it's Bing. Bing is a search engine, and inside it, it has ChatGPT version 3, so without any serious change in methods and approaches to search for information, it'll be prepared to offer you different summaries, prompts, and other things from large language models. If you are interested in Russian tools, there's GigaChat that I also tried. For me, it worked quite well, somewhere at the level of ChatGPT version 3. So on the whole, you can use it. And it's also free. Looking at some open source similar products, we have a special gearboard for LLMs. And this leaderboard is accessible through this link on the right. What makes it important, it runs several texts showing how different models cope with different languages, because the leaderboard changes quite often. I'm not going to focus on specific models. The only thing to mention is that we now use DeepSeek. Open source models can be used in three ways. way one as a demo. Some of them have open demos that you can open up from a browser and start writing there. The second option is to import them through PyTorch. And the third option is Llama. Llama is an LLM aggregator that allows you flexibly to download one of them with the pull command and use it. The model will be pre-trained. You install Llama with the command line, with one command on the command line. After that, you add the web part because Llama is an aggregator. And with these two commands, you get a backend, or better say, a website that looks very much like ChatGPT. You take it and use it, and there won't be a lot of differences, but it'll all be yours. It'll work self-hosted, and the code is not going to take it away from you. Regarding Copilot, something that works equally good, I would mention Brain AI, but I would also like to mention Amazon Code Whisperer. Why so? Because it's free for individual developers. If you want something that works really well and don't want to pay for it, you take Code Whisperer and use it. Russian similar product. I would refer to Gigacode. And again, if you're looking for an open source solution, then Olama and large language models that was mentioned a couple of slides above, you install it in your development environment and start using it. So in this example, we have Code GPT, but actually an extension can be different because Llama has an API. So you install this extension. It has a special prompt that takes the large language, that turns the large language models into a code assistant. And it should be compatible with the development environment of the code because it will run immediately. So you indicate the host. So after installation, you specify the host of your Llama, and the extension is prepared to work. Similar solutions and open source solutions are a great thing, but they are only that many, and they're different, and it'd be nice to understand what's better to use at different phases. And I do have this set of phases. Stage one, Bing. If you're not ready use large language models, you're not prepared to change your workflow, you can just use Bing as a search engine. It'll give you summaries, it'll give you some prompts, and you'll start getting introduced to the world of LLMs. If you already want to try something, take Amazon Code Whisperer and ChatGPT 4.0. ChatGPT 4.0 was released like a couple of weeks ago, and it's free, and it's one of the best options, I think. If you've already liked something that you've had experience with, I suggest that you upgrade to any tool that you like. If you like Code Whisperer, try to pay for Copilot and something similar. If you like ChatGPT 4.0, pay for ChatGPT 4, so you won't be standing in the lines and will be using it all the time. If you're at the fourth stage when you've liked something and you've got experience with it, but you want it to run in self-hosted mode, I suggest that use Olama plus some Code GPT. We are using exactly this option, and we are gradually learning to use it in a real-life project. So I'm done. Thank you for your attention.
Спасибо большое.
Thank you very much. So now my usual phrase for the bot. And Igor, reminding you that you'll need to choose the best question. Again, not taking too much time because they generated several pages worth of questions. We'll try to take as many of them as we can. So Cormac Moore, the fastest. So hello. The existing languages such as ChatGPT, might they not lead to the degradation of the programmer profession? The main question. Because juniors will stop using their brains. I don't think it's about degradation. As I said, our junior developers are using it already. So if you have juniors in your company and start asking them, and if somebody of them admits that they're taking some of them, I think the use cases when the beginners are using ChatGPT are great, show great value. It's like Googling. Googling doesn't make programmers to go away. As to sophisticated requests, the ChatGPT is not coping, so you have to maintain a certain level of critical thinking to choose the right solution. In my opinion, those beginners whom I see and who use ChatGPT now are coping with their task better than those who don't use ChatGPT. So I believe it's just like another turn of the helix in the improvement of the. So it's an evolution. It takes you less time to get some problem solved. It reminds me, when in an interview they're asking you to write some code on a piece of paper, you can come back with a question. Is it often happens in your company that people are writing codes on paper, not using IDEs? Oh, Alexander Kovalov, great job, quite fast. I was comparing ChatGPT answers with Russian variants. It's a question. Have you compared?
Был ответ в докладе, да.
So basically, you responded to that in your presentation. Yes, I have. Okay, great. Mikhail? Yeah, I myself said, please ask your questions even before the first slide. Mikhail Gostev. Many people say that ChatGPT become dumber in the past few months. What would you recommend to use instead of ChatGPT? Which similar system would you like? Well, I'm not quite sure about becoming dumber. Yes, there are certain papers in Harbor and not only there that show ChatGPT does a worse job coping with some tasks, but I think it's mostly about different backdoors that are being installed on it and that can subjectively spoil its work. In my work, I haven't experienced that ChatGPT has become to work worse. Talking about similar solutions, you can take Gemini, Google's Gemini, and it works quite well. That's a good question. Nikita Pastukhov. No, I'm not trying to bribe the judge. I just like that we started with a question about the newbies. And now, why, at the end of the day, a senior developer should use ChatGPT? In the presentation, they said that they're using it the wrong way. So why senior developers should be using ChatGPT? So perhaps, firstly, to accelerate their work. Of the recent trends that I've seen in the internet, I saw AI augmented developers who are being looked for. So the companies are highlighting that they're looking for senior developers that know how to use AI, that are actively using ChatGPT to accelerate their work. As I said, ChatGPT does a great job solving problems related to analytics. When you have a blank sheet of paper, you need to start with something. It's prepared to offer you a solution. It's prepared to help you put something up to speed. It's prepared to collaborate with you. But of course, if you're a senior developer and just want to look why you need ChatGPT, get Copilot installed and you'll see why you may need it. You'll be saving time. You'll be writing more codes in less time. Okay. Good. several questions. Roman, there are many Romans here. Did you test new functions from ChatGPT with screen sharing? No, I haven't. As far as I know, it's not yet available to everyone. The only difference I saw between ChatGPT-O versus ChatGPT is that it generates answers not in English sentences, but in whole paragraphs. So the speed has grown considerably. And I wouldn't say I've noticed any other differences. As to the new features, I haven't tried them, but I am quite eager to. Another Roman. Why are you using the chat interface, other than other things in page X, Colab interface, own agents? If I understand the question correctly, Codium is a solution which you have to pay the money for. And in my opinion, most of such solutions do worse job than Copilot now and the tools I've mentioned. Again, if you read the paper on the Harbor, where the author compared Copilots in the role of code assistants, so I think Codium was also mentioned there, and Copilot showed considerably better results as a code assistant. Okay, I will be trying to choose questions because I think there are interesting questions that have been answered a little bit later. So Nikita Kstovsky, it seems like GPT-4o doesn't follow instructions so well. Yes, I've heard about this, and the model that follows instructions really very well, as I understand, is I am good ChatGPT bot. I think this is the name, but however, it's not available for direct use right now. It can be used on the website that randomly generates answers for you in two different models, showing afterwards which model was there. As to my front end, nothing has really changed because in my case, it's quite general, even though I saw guys who said the same things. Nico, hello, thank you for the presentation. Can you share the funniest case of losing context in ChatGPT? Context losing. Yes, a funny case of context being lost. Have you ever had any? I wouldn't say I remember anything about losing context because you need to conduct a long chat. However, I had a funny case when I wanted to generate config on U-Link on U-Whiskey. And even though the step was architecturally wrong, and ChatGPT helped me a lot, and I took debugging it for 4 hours or so, and not only but it wouldn't work, and asked them to generate a new work, and the new version wouldn't work. Nothing of that was documented, but I was believing ChatGPT a lot, and I wanted it to be true, and so I wasted a lot of time on that. It all ended up with me going to rewrite the solution, not on UWISC, but changing some architectural points. Thank you. Judging by the question, you are very concerned about the fate of juniors and that they will be degrading. I already made this comment to Artur's presentation. Maybe some of you were able. So it was a question that when book printing started, there was a fear that people are going to be dumb because of books. So how to persuade ChatGPT that it's not right? Actually, persuading ChatGPT that it's wrong is something that is not worth it. So persuading ChatGPT that it's not right, so it's wrong. It says something that you believe to be wrong. If they give you a wrong answer, or if they said something wrong, and you're not able to fix it in 2 or 3 prompts, it's easier to create a new chat and generate something new. I had one of such rules in the previous version of the presentation because junior developers that I see sometimes they spend time proving to a chatbot that it's not right, spending on wasting the tokens and the number of messages they have. Version 4 limited us to 30 exchanges in 3 hours, so spending 3 of them trying to fix what they said, it's wrong. So we try to fix their answers once or twice, and if you fail, you just stop the conversation and go back to Google. Okay. Let me look at the very end. Sonia Borovikova, I think, asked in the introduction how to use a neural network to config sophisticated projects with lots of microservices. Wouldn't you feed all the complex code there? What to do if the information is collected from several modules? Yes, it is indeed a problem. A possible solution would be a verbal description of the architecture, what you have, some key elements about your application, because configs use information about the name of the application, why this application is used, what ports it uses. The best answer that I would recommend maybe either to describe this config manually, briefly, on your own, or to split the config into smaller ones and add applications in turn. But yes, the problem is there. And I think a good final question would be the one from Mikhail. Have you measured specific changes in productivity when developing using LLM? Do you manage to run a 5-year plan in 3 years, as they were saying in the Soviet time? Well, a 5-year plan in 3 years, yes, but only some small project of mine. So it writes, Copilot writes code very well, especially if it's about a Flutter that's prepared to write a UI to you. It's prepared to offer you prompts the size of half a file. It'll work very well with the well-known pedantic. Talk about specific time management, 15 to 20 seconds, as I said, for each line of code that you could write yourselves, but with Copilot, it happens much faster and pleasantly. Okay, now tell me, which question do you think was the best? Which one did you like most? I would say there were 2 of them. The question about why senior developers need that, and 5-year plan in 3 years, that was quite funny. Well, you can flip a coin, or I can let you decide.
Да, выиграл ChatGPT. Ну, ладно, друзья, я на самом деле
Dear friends,
монетку. Давайте
I actually flipped a coin in my head. Let's vote for the senior and award the prize for the question about senior developers. So this was
поскольку я рандомно задавал.
Because I was randomly picking questions, I'm now trying to find where I had it. Okay.
Я все потерял.
I lost everything.
Так, джуны.
So juniors again.
Друзья, кто задавал вопрос про сеньор?
Friends, who was asking the question about the senior developers? Maybe this is the way to learn. Okay, this guy. So let's award it to this guy. So we believe you on your words. You have honest eyes. Thank you.